And thank you, all of you who are here today. Thank you so much. And all of you on Zoom, thank you. Thank you for supporting us with your presence and with your love and your consciousness. Well, Valentine's is probably one of my two favorite celebrations. And I always felt that I should celebrate Christmas until Valentine's Day. But being married, my wife doesn't have quite the same enthusiasm. So it's just sort of something that's inside of me. Trying to put talks together a lot of times is a little bit of a struggle because there's so many different themes that might be going on. Like this month, last month we were working with faith. We were coming out of the preparation, the celebration of Christmas. And Jeff last week introduced us into the theme of strength. And then of course today we have Valentine's Day. And so I think that the thread for me that I want to work with is love. And so it was interesting the song that Kathy and Jeff had put together because it was so perfect. And the reason why I think I want to work with love is, first of all, it's who we are. It's the core of who we are. And it's also the key to our happiness. Because being love, we experience pain and suffering when we're separate from the wholeness of who we are. And the love I'm talking about is not the kind that we tend to experience, what we call a more fickle version of love. I'm not talking about that. So, we don't want to be so loose and light with that word necessarily. I'm thinking more, instead of a candle of light, I'm thinking of 100 suns of light as an expression of the love that is the truth of who we are. A power that's so great that it absorbs all the judgments and the fears and the beliefs in separation that are inside of us, that we have accumulated over many, many lives of experience. And so we're here this morning. We come each Sunday with the strength of who you are. It takes discipline. It takes strength to be committed to yourself the way all of you are, and those of you who are on Zoom. To deal with the weather and all, learning how to do Zoom and work the computer. All these things are challenges. And so it shows a tremendous commitment. And this process is difficult. And so I bring that up, and I'm going to read about the difficulty because a lot of times we judge ourselves. We think we should be in a different place, that we should be experiencing more of love, more of who we are. But we're just perfect where we are. And it's important to understand what we're working with. So I'm going to read from a little bit from a mystic that's kind of trying to touch upon that difficulty. Without actual personal experience, they say, it is difficult to understand God. Now we can use different kinds of illustrations to sort of touch on the concept. For example, we could say that it's like the waves of a powerful TV station. And those minds that have become subtle and who have attuned themselves to Him, they can hear Him and see Him in His glory. Now the two important words there is subtle, needing to become more subtle and more attuned. Unity, we say that there's only one. There's one presence, there's one power. But what does that really mean? That's something we need to contemplate in terms of our belief systems in terms of the kinds of thoughts and feelings that arise in us on a daily basis. If there's only one, what is this that we experience? It appears like many. It appears like separation. I've read before the idea that God is love and that love is God. And the mystic here says a little bit more about that. It says that we are particles of the Lord. We are particles of that love. And the relationship between us and the Lord is like a part to a whole. And it used the example of like the ocean and the wave. The wave is just a particle, but it's no different than the ocean. And this is what's so important, because this part we don't believe. The Lord is never unmindful of us, even for a moment. It is always looking after us. These feelings, the way we see, it's an illusion. Because we are not separate. We're not separate from the oneness of God and the oneness of each other. We have never been separate from Him. He is always with us and always pervades our entire being. Always. So we have to work with those feelings that come up. And that's one of the reasons we come here. And reasons why we have chaplains is to keep reminding ourselves. The reason why we learn about prayer and the reason why we have book groups is to keep reminding ourselves, because it is so difficult. Until we start to experience, until we become more subtle, till we become more and more attuned, till we start to have experiences of our truth. You know, in science, they're working with concepts. And then they try to prove those concepts. And like, you know, the gift that Einstein had is that between the two hemispheres, he could travel like many, many creative people. He could travel a little bit into that part of the mind, the right mind, that knows the truth of who we are, that is connected to a more expansive universe. And so he would, a lot of times creative people, they would tap that. Maybe they get their inspirations for music and for art. And in his case, as a scientist. And then it's spend time and time to either create that or discover, how is this true? I have this feeling. You're here because you have a feeling. You wouldn't be here, like I've said before. You'd be down the street somewhere. Or you'd be at the coffee shop right now. But there's something in you. You know more than you realize. Or you would not be making the choices that we make. And this is why, like I say all the time, this is why the mystics come. This is why Jesus came. And there are hundreds and hundreds of mystics that we never ever hear about. Because most of them do it very, very quietly. Most of them come for only a few. But they come because they have had that experience. They have become more subtle and more attuned. And they've been able to experience a greater reality of who we are. And so when they come and when they write and when they teach and people write down what they say, it's about us. It's not about them. It's not to glorify them. It's about glorifying yourself and realizing that, wow, I'm not a candlelight, I'm a radiant sun and more. And so we're here to open to that. Another one wrote, "You, my child, are divine. You are pure. You are sublimely free. You are God in disguise. You are perfectly safe. Do not fight the light. Do not fight the dark. Just turn on the light. Let go and breathe in the goodness that you are. And so this is a challenge. And the reasons we have these two hemispheres of the mind. And one hemisphere, the one that we need to be able to function in this reality, that it's only a temporary reality. We have that left hemisphere that allows us to function here. But there is a right hemisphere. And those of you who are studying the bliss brain in your book groups, you saw where science is now starting to be able to measure activity within the brain and the areas of the brain of that activity. And you were reading about how, like meditation, automatically starts to activate an area of the brain that connects that left hemisphere with that right hemisphere, that allows us to start to move in between those two worlds and start to know more and more, which you already know, but it becomes more and more obvious. It becomes more and more visible. But we live in a society that emphasizes only the left. If you want to be successful, it demands that you really be in that left. And so it's difficult. It's difficult for people who maybe live a little bit in both of those worlds. But that's what we're here for. I grew up near the ocean. I grew up as a diver. And there were times when I could see 100 feet. There were times when I could see only maybe 2 inches, barely. It was so disrupted. There was so much turmoil that the clarity was only this much. And yet, the reality, if that turbulence was to settle, and if I could see what I could see when I could see 100 feet, everything was always there. It was never gone. It was just because of the turbulence I could not see it. And so, meditation and prayer, in a way, they start to settle the turbulence of this left hemisphere. And it's gradual, and it happens automatically. It's who you are. And so what we're doing, we're not trying to be something else. Remember, the left hemisphere, everything is outside of us. We look for love out there. Well, that's pretty dangerous, isn't it? Because that just keeps moving on us. And so we're constantly never can get to whatever it is that we want, because it always keeps being outside of us. And yet we're working with another truth, that you are love, that in your oneness you're one with every single thing there is, that it's not outside of you. But again, for now it's a concept, but we're here to open. We're open to that truth of who we are. One bright star. Last week, Jeff was talking, using the analogy of a lighthouse as some way to hold our focus. And so I used the line from Jeff's song, One Bright Star, to keep reminding us, to keep bringing us back to that celebration of Christmas. Because it was big, it was glorious, it had sound and visuals that had all these things, a little more easy to remember. And all we got to do is to remember that one bright star is about us. It's about the birthing of this reality that we're talking about every Sunday. And it's about nurturing it. And you have the strength to nurture it. And we're nurturing it by being here and all the different activities that you do. It's like and Roger talked about this when he talked in January, when he was talking about faith. And he said he realized that it wasn't that you have faith or you don't have faith, that you're in a process like we are in life, a process of maturation where we're growing in a greater and greater awareness. He said it's like on a continuum. And you're just in different places on a continuum, like we are as we grow. So, for a child, the adult is within that child, waiting to be experienced through the maturation and the development of that child. And the more loving that process is, usually the more healthy the adult. The tree is already in the seed. And yet, how does that happen? I can't comprehend that with my mind. It doesn't necessarily make sense. But I know it because I can see it and watch and observe it. The Christ is in you. And that's what we're nurturing. We're nurturing. You already are the Christ. It's within you. But we go through a maturation process of developing into that truth of who we are. And again, it's as natural as the tree coming from the seed. There's no forcing. There's no making it happen. We don't have to try to control it. In fact, as we do that, we tend to interfere with the process. When Evie talked last month, she happened to be talking at the time of Martin Luther King's birthday. And she read something. She said, "You can't fight hate with hate." And so that really caught my attention, so I went to look it up. And it seemed like Martin had talked about it different times. And the one speech that I was looking at was called "Loving Your Enemies." And in it, Martin was saying, returning hate for hate multiplies hate. Adding deeper darkness to the night, already devoid of stars, darkness cannot drive out the darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And this is the way it is. We really don't have any choice. If we want to experience love, we have to become, we have to be, we have to give love. Martin was inspired by Gandhi, and that helped develop a faith in that understanding, as well as his own spiritual work and his readings, reading of mystics and other writers. And so he developed a faith in that concept and that idea that in order to deal with the conflicts of the world, he had to do it through love. Now his followers, not all of them understood that. Not all of them ever reached that point of understanding. His understanding. It's like, wait a minute. We're being abused. We're being hurt. We're being denied our existence. How in the heck can I solve that with love? And so this is where the strength comes. Because people challenged Martin Luther King. Many of his followers, many of them challenged that, and many followed. But the challenge, and that required him to be strong in that faith. It wasn't that he necessarily had experienced it yet. It was faith. He was stepping out on something that his heart told him to be true. And when he knew that he could be killed or terribly hurt, that people are out there with baseball bats and other types of weapons, and you know that you're going to get hit with that, what kind of strength does that take to step into that kind of fear, but knowing what you have to do if you really want to have the experience that you're here for, the truth of who you are. So I want to conclude by saying that we can't create the world of our heart, the world that we feel, the world that we desire, the world that we all reach for. We can't create that by beating and pounding like on metal and trying to shape it and make it happen. It just doesn't work that way. We have to open ourselves to the oneness, to the love, to the peace, and say, show me. I don't know how to do this. Show me. You're my strength. Show me how to see light where I can only see darkness in this moment. Show me how to see peace when in the moment I can only know how to see fear. But you, the part of me that is whole, the part of me that is part of that oneness, it can do those things. That's what it's for. Someone read the story about Peter trying to emulate Jesus and walking on the water, and all of a sudden he started going under. We're here to try. We're here to step into who we are. The hand is always there to help us. The love is always enfolding us. We've never been separate. So be vigilant, only for God, only for the truth, for the love and the light that you are. Amen. So let's just take a moment. And let's just open, all of you who are in Zoom, I want you to use your imagination for a moment. And just remember what it's like to be here in this sanctuary and to feel that atmosphere that is created by our oneness and our love. And so I invite you to come right now and join all of us that are here in this sanctuary. And we in the sanctuary, let us open, let us relax into our truth. Our truth is here. We thought we were in the far country. We thought that we were alone. And we carry hurt. We carry pain from being separate from the love that we are. We feel shame because we think we're not perfect, that we're not enough. This is the far country. We have never in truth been in the far country. We have always been held in the oneness of God's mind. We are held now in love. I love the story about St. Valentine's today, that he created these little hearts to remind each other every moment we can give the gift of love. Every moment we can give a Valentine to every person we meet, so that they can be reminded their truth, that we are love, that we are in love, that we are a part of a love that is greater than 100 suns, beyond our comprehension. We are held now and always in the oneness and the power and the love of God. And so we're here to relax and to open, to gently release the belief in struggle, which comes from thinking that we are separate. that there is something that we have to make happen. We are the magic of that seed. We open into the truth that is here right now. We are like helium balloons that are tied to the images of this world, to the beliefs of the far country. But as we love, as we forgive, as we allow God's love to flow through us to every situation of darkness and fear that arises within us, we start to release that balloon of love that we may enfold and fall and become a part of the wholeness and the oneness of who we are. We are loved, and we are love. And we give thanks for each other and for our oneness. Amen. Thank you for doing that together.
Thank you.
Okay. So, because of the way the flow happens here, at this point in time, we'll do a little closing benediction, and then we'll do our prayer of protection, and then we'll form our circle of love. Audrey had showed me something from Mother Teresa this morning. And Mother Teresa had written, you don't have to save the world. Don't look for the big things. Just do small things with great love. And so, as we go out into the world, remember that every day is Valentine's Day. Every day we can choose through our love to ignite the love that is our truth and to remind the people that we're with how very precious that they are, because we are one. And as we do that, we don't have to do the big things. And we can also breathe and relax and have fun. And so the prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.